After a day of traveling, Clyde and Emily finally arrived on Grubb's estate to get married. Clyde had been waiting for this day from the moment he locked eyes with his perfect Emily. Emily walked down the aisle and looked at Clyde the entire time. Time stood still in that moment. She never imagined she would have a happy life, but Clyde swooped in and changed her life, and she couldn't be more lucky to now call him her husband. The kids stood by their parents as they recited their vows of love to each other. Emily began her speech by thanking Clyde for loving her and showing her that she was worthy of love. She tells him that even though she does not deserve him, she will be spending the rest of her life grateful she is. Clyde beamed about how beautiful she was and how incredible of a life they have had thus far, and will continue to share together for as long as they both shall live. They exchanged rings with tears in their eyes. Neither thought that this day would ever come to fruition. Both had longed for this day for a long time, to be legally husband and wife as Clyde and Emily Bennett. Emily is overzealous to kiss her now husband that they miss completely and bump heads instead. Both erupt in a fit of giggles because this was their relationship in a nutshell. Not perfect, but it was airs, and it brought them joy every day. Clyde's entire surviving family was in attendance for this joyous occasion. Clyde's 3 sisters and their husbands, Esmeralda's for children, Isabel's for children, Victoria's 2 daughters, and Clyde's stepmother and baby sister. Following the ceremony, Clyde witnessed Irving striking his sister across the face. He would not allow that man to lay a hand on Isabel, so he confronts him. Irving states that she is his wife and therefore his property and can treat her how he pleases. Anger wells inside of Clyde because it was like looking at a spitting image of his father. He punches Irving in the face without warning. The rest of the family is angry with Clyde for interfering in a family matter. The Grubbs are so angry with him that they banish him and his family from the premises even before they can celebrate tea and nuptials together. Irving makes a big scene about the growing bruise on his cheek and whispers to Clyde that he will end he and his family if they don't leave right that minute. The newlyweds and their children traveled home as soon as the fight ended. As soon as they got home, they got into a heated argument. Emily was upset that Clyde ruined their wedding with violence. Clyde argues that he was saving his sister. The kids were not used to hear their parents argue, so it was upsetting for everyone in the Bennett household. The kids sat outside of their parents' room and cried, scared that their parents would not be in love anymore. Their argument yielded no resolution. Emily spent her first night as a wife asleep in bed without her husband and confused how her wedding day had gone so awry. Clyde elected to sleep on the couch because he needed time to think. He stood by what he did. He prides himself on looking out for the people he loves, and that is exactly what he did. He is disappointed that it ruined their wedding day, but he couldn't let it slide. Emily ventured downstairs in the middle of the night, missing her husband in bed with her. She apologizes for getting angry with him. She just wanted the day that was meant to be celebrating their love to be untainted and special. Clyde apologizes for making a scene at their own wedding and vows to make it up to her. He loved her so much and hated to see her upset. They had their first dance as a married couple in the middle of the kitchen in the early morning hours. This was a better way to celebrate their love. It was just the 2 of them whispering sweet nothings and making plans for the future. Clyde brought out a special bottle of liquor that Philip had been saving for a special occasion. The newlyweds drank the potent liquid and toasted to Philip and to their one-of-a-kind love. Their wedding day wasn't as they planned, but their wedding night would be. Clyde grabbed his wife firmly and engulfed her in a heated moment of passion. Intimacy was the best way that Clyde had to express his love to Emily, and he had much to express that night. Clyde picks her up and put her on the counter, and they make love for the first time as spouses. The Bennett family settled into a quiet life of love and closeness. Being shunned from his sisters was difficult for Clyde, but his family was his saving grace. Fletcher and Edmund were very excited because their birthdays were that day. They would be aging into children. Both boys were excited to become more independent. Clyde felt especially sentimental at the twins growing older. He wished he could savor just a little more time with them being this young. He wasn't ready for them to not need him anymore. Fletcher blows out his candles first as the eldest. Happy birthday to our heir. Fletcher's childhood trait is that he is stoic. This means he has trouble outwardly showing his emotions. His childhood aspiration is to be a whiz kid and gain all knowledge he can. Edmund blows out his candles next. Happy birthday to our spare. Edmund's childhood trait is that he is a Cancer. This means he is highly emotional but very empathetic and caring. His childhood aspiration is to be an artistic prodigy. Fletcher passed the time by reading. He loved to escape into books and live other lives while in between the pages. He was a fast reader, so he blew through 3 books a week. Edmund was the opposite of his twin brother. Books were boring to him. He found joy in creating art through his imagination. The drawing would look like chicken scratch until he was finished, and then the masterpiece was revealed. Emily saw such promise in her young son. His drawings were visually stunning and evoked such strong emotions when looking at the deeper meaning. She knew Edmund would go places with his art someday. Edmund was closer to their baby sister than Fletcher was. He loved to go in her room and make her laugh. As much as Clyde missed the boys being little, he very much enjoyed the extra time he was able to spend with Agatha. She was his little girl and he adored her. The only way he could describe the feeling was that she was his heart out in the world. When Clyde wasn't in town selling his woodworking pieces, he was at home spending time with Agatha. He was in charge of bedtime and would sing little songs to her. He was not a good singer, but Agatha would smile and babble anyway. Fletcher was an academic. He enjoyed going to school and actually enjoyed completing the homework that his teacher would assign. Clyde tried to assist Fletcher with his homework, but he quickly realized that his son was already smarter than him. This would make some men upset, but Clyde bursted with pride. Edmund had terrible nightmares some night, so Emily would have to spray for monsters under his bed to help ease his worries and be able to go back to sleep. Emily worried that something deeper was going on with her poor son, but didn't know what could be wrong. In an effort to relieve some of her son's anxiety, she taught him how to knit. It had helped ease her anxiety during her pregnancies, and she hoped it would have the same effect on Edmund. He picked up on the skill immediately and very much enjoyed knitting. It brought he and his mom closer. Fletcher liked to spend his time reading books. His parents began to worry for him because he wasn't meeting friends at school. He preferred to read during recess. In an effort to break Fletcher out of his shell, Clyde took his son down to the lake to go fishing. This was such a great bonding experience for father and son. Fletcher felt truly loved and accepted by his dad. The outing solidified that Fletcher would always have a special place in Clyde's heart. He was his firstborn son, and despite everything, he was proud of the man he was becoming. No matter what he decided to do, he would support him. Clyde soaked up the final weeks of his baby girl being an infant. It was bittersweet because he and Emily decided that their family was complete with Agatha, so this would be the last time he had a chill. This small. Agatha's birthday came quicker than Clyde and Emily would have liked, but they were excited to see how Agatha would be as a toddler. Agatha's toddler trait is that she is independent. This is interesting since she is the baby of the family. Emily settled into her new routine of only having Agatha at home during the day. The twins attended school, and Clyde's woodworking business was gaining popularity, so he was out of the house more. It was a hard adjustment for Emily because she was so close to her boys and was used to being with them every second of the day. She also was having a hard time with Agatha. The toddler kept her on her toes, which aggravated her endlessly. Agatha's favorite time of day was when her brothers would come home. Fletcher didn't pay her much attention. Edmund played dolls with her, and Agatha thoroughly enjoyed that. Fletcher began getting extra books from his teacher because he would breeze through the assigned reading. He loved Mondays because he would get to new books to read. One weekend, the Bennett family went down to the lake for a family beach day. Clyde had recently been very busy with his woodworking business and wasn't home as often as he would like to be. It was important for him to make sure his wife and children knew how much he loved them. He had to make a living to provide for them. He would always prefer to be with his family. They were his everything. The children had a blast playing in the sand together. Agatha mostly did her own thing, which included destroying the sandcastle she and her mama made together. The twins put their minds together and made an elaborate sandcastle. They were the perfect team. Fletcher used his intelligence to create a structurally sound model, while Edmund used his creative talent to make it beautiful. While the children played, Clyde and Emily stepped away to have some much-needed time together. They laid in the sand together and brought the other up to speed on every thought they hadn't been able to share in the last few months. It brought the couple closer, because there had been a distance between them since Clyde had been in town more. It was the perfect day for the Bennett family. In an effort to spend more time with his father, Fletcher experiments with different elements around the house in a makeshift work table that Clyde built him. Clyde finds it very comforting to have his son with him while he works on his woodworking pieces. They are to piece in a part. Fletcher is incredibly witty and has a sharp tongue. He makes his dad laugh often. Clyde is astounded by his son's intelligence and ability to create new things. He is sure that Fletcher will invent something new one day. Edmund begins getting piano lessons from his mother. He does not have a natural musical ability, and he does enjoy to learn the instrument from his mother. Since Clyde and the twins were out of the house for the majority of the day, dinner time was a very important time for their family. She made an elaborate dinner for her family of 5 every single evening. Being the mama's boy that Edmund is, he helped his mother with anything she needed after he returned home from school. He liked to set a table in placemats that he colored himself. Afterwards, he liked to join his brother and father outside and ask questions about what they were making. He felt on the outside of their bond. Agatha was an independent little one, so she was often in her home world, which normally included getting into mischief. Emily put Agatha in her high chair so that she wouldn't roam during dinner. She served her beaux before she would eat herself. Clyde liked to give an embellished account of his day to make his beaux curious and excited about Clyde's business. He asked his sons about their days. Edmund would usually speak about a new art piece he was working on. Fletcher was usually quiet because he was counting down the minutes until he was allowed to be excused to his room to read, but he did like to listen to his family speak. When Emily finally joined the table, Edmund would always apologize for eating without her at the table, and then recount everything that was said during dinner. Emily was so grateful that her son didn't want her to miss a moment. Edmund gave his mum a break after dinner by washing the dishes. Fletcher would already be on the couch reading by this point, and his dad finally got to spend time with Agatha. Besides, this made Edmund feel like he was contributing to his family. The Bennett family had a very monotonous yet very happy life together on the weekends. The family of 5 loved to spend the day in their pajamas and spend quality time together around the fire in the living room. Fletcher would have his nose deep into the pages of a new book, Edmund brought ambience to the room by playing songs on the piano that his mother had taught him. Agatha played with whatever toy Clyde and brought home for her, or built recently. Clyde and Emily cuddled up on the couch and soaked up the fleeting feelings of their children being this young, and the love they felt for each other, and the life they created together. The two of them felt so lucky and happy. Each night, whether weekday or weekend, ended with Clyde tucking in his youngest daughter and reading her bedtime stories until she fell asleep. Admittedly, this was Clyde's favorite time of day. He adored his little girl and the time they spent together. As the twins got older, they found that they had less and less in common. They were naturally growing apart, but neither wanted that to happen. There was so much love and respect between them, so they scheduled time together. The one activity they both enjoyed was playing chess together, so that is what they did every Sunday. This kept their brotherly bond alive. It was a sacred space where they could voice all of the thoughts they couldn't share with anyone else. As Agatha was getting older, she became so self-reliant that she didn't want her parents reading her books anymore. It made Clyde and Emily sad that their youngest child was growing up too fast. Sometimes the loud nature of his family home is too much for Fletcher. To give his mind some much-needed peace and quiet, he takes a dip in the river and listens to the sounds of nature. During one of his ventures to the river, it appeared that another child was out there for the same reason. Fletcher never had much interest in girls, but this one was the most beautiful he had ever seen, so he mustered up enough courage to start a conversation. He learns that the beautiful girl's name is Suzanne Waterman. She liked to come out to the serene river to escape the orphanage she lived in. Together, they escaped from their vastly different lives. The duo became fast friends. Fletcher admired Suzanne's fearlessness and her ability to see the good in life despite her circumstances. The Bennetts had always been a deeply private family, so Fletcher felt very grateful to have a friend outside of his immediate family. It was a new yet very welcome feeling. After years of his faith taking a back seat, Clyde began to reread the holy book. The sacred words brought him a nostalgic comfort. Sensing that his youngest daughter would not be his baby much longer, he soaked up every moment with her. Some days, he would even take the morning off to play with Agatha. They had so much fun together and become breathless from giggling. It hurt Clyde's heart that Agatha wasn't going to be this small forever, and she wouldn't always be Daddy's little girl. Emily liked to complete all of the household duties while Clyde and the twins were at work and school, respectively. Emily preferred to give her undivided attention to them when they were home. Emily felt the opposite her husband did about Agatha growing older. She couldn't wait for Agatha to get older. Agatha was ornery and insubordinate. She never listened or cooperated with Emily. This caused their family dynamic to become strict. Emily often lost herself in the house chores. I would lose track of what Agatha was doing or where she was. More often than not, Agatha was off finding ways to make life exciting, like destroying some of her mother's plants. She enjoyed playing in the dirt and got carried away. The mess would always put a smile on her face. Even though it was Emily's responsibility to keep a constant watchful eye on her daughter, she would get very frustrated at her young daughter for disobeying her and gave her many stern talking tos. Agatha's retaliation for being yelled at was to make more messes. She was only a kid and she was meant to be messy and get herself into mischief. By the end of most days, Emily had had enough of her daughter being a tiny tornado around the house and took a nice warm bath to calm herself. Her beaux had been rambunctious, but they had never gotten on her nerves like Agatha did. Agatha was okay with her mother taking some time for herself because that meant she was allowed to play by herself. She was an independent tot and didn't need her mum around constantly.